In this video, I'm going to show you how was my experience testing the Virya cardigan sewing pattern from Sycamore Road Patterns. I will share some of the sewing steps plus a few tips and tricks. If you have never tested sewing pattern before, everything starts with going through all the instructions. Once you read everything, then it's time to choose the fabric. You need to know the stretch capacity of your fabric when sewing with knits. It's an important step to make sure the final piece will fit your body. This is the fabric I'm using for this project. If you want to know the stretch capacity of your fabric, I will share a few tips. Use a ruler you have at home and grab your fabric. I like to fold the fabric in half, perpendicular to the selvage. I always use 10 centimeters as a base, so place each finger on each edge of the 10 centimeters and then stretch only one side of the fabric. I stretch until it feels comfortable, so do not try to overstretch the fabric. If your fabric stretches to 15 centimeters, it means it stretches 50%. If the fabric stretches to 17 centimeters, it means it stretches 70% and so on. You can follow the same steps in the other direction of the fabric, parallel to the selvage, so you know the stretch capacity of both sides. I have this book and it shows more details of everything I'm talking about. This is the 10 centimeter line and everything that the fabric stretches. This way is the stretch capacity. I'm not going to explain everything, but just for you to know, every knit pattern is made in using negative ease. That's why it's important to use the right stretch fabric for each project. Also, the knits can be 2-way stretch or 4-way stretch, so check this info before you start your next project. I checked all the fabric requirements and now it's time to get the body measurements to choose the right size. I'm usually one size for my bust and another size for my hips. For this pattern, I chose size E, following my hips measurement. I read all the instructions and it's finally time to print the pattern. When I'm testing a pattern, I like to write everything down so I can give better feedback to the designer later. The PDF is layered, so you can print only your size. I printed the A4 format and it's time to stick all the pages together. You can use the cutting layout provided by the designer or just try to figure out the best way to cut the pattern piece. like to test my machines before start sewing. So I get a small piece of fabric and test the thread tension and color. I usually don't have many thread spools of the same color, so what I do is change only one thread. The thread you'll be able to see from the outside, and use black or white for the other threads. Let's start sewing the cardigan. I'm not going to show all the steps, but I will share the most important things. Remember, this was my experience making this, and it might be different for you. I always like to add a kind of tape to the shoulder seams when sewing with stretch fabrics. This way your shoulder won't stretch out with time. There are many options of tape, but I'm going to use a cotton tape. I cut the tape in half to try to match the same size of the seam. I overlocked the tape while sewing the shoulders. I didn't film, but after sewing the shoulders, I did sew the side seams as well. There are two different ways to sew the sleeves to the main body, and this time I'm sewing the armhole in the round. It means you need to sew the side seams as well as the side seams of the sleeve, and then sew the sleeve to the armhole in the round. Not all the machines have this option, but if you can remove the bed extension of your machine, it will help you to sew in the round. When I'm sewing the sleeves, I like to place each seam in opposite directions, so I can have these perfect matching seams. I think this is a very easy sewing project. The hardest part of this project will be sewing the binding to the neckline. You can start sewing it as any other buyer's binding, so sew the edge of the binding to the right side of the neckline, cut the excess fabric, fold it, and pin the neckline. The instructions recommend a finishing called stitching in the ditch, and I think it looks amazing. You can see what it looks like. From the right side, the stitches are not visible, but it comes with a price. For me, it didn't work well on the first try. I just used pins and tried to sew it from the right side, really close to the edge and only catching the bottom of the bind, but the result wasn't good. My first try went wrong because I didn't catch the bottom of the binding, so I decided that it would be easier if I hand stitched the neckline in the right place before sewing with my machine. One thing that was helpful was placing the bottom edge of the binding just a little bit over the line where I was going to top stitch. This way you can ensure you will catch the bottom binding when sewing from the right side. try to sew it again, sewing it from the right side, really close to the edge of the binding.
On the second try, it was going well until I didn't catch the bottom of the binding again. But I'm not giving up, so let's try again.
The third try was way better and it finally worked out. I did miss a few stitches here, but I'm not going to sew the whole thing once more. I tried to sew it again on top and it looks good. The instructions recommend using a twin needle to sew the hem, but I decided to use a zigzag stitch instead and I like how it turned out. The last step is adding the buttonholes and the bottoms. I don't have much experience doing it and I always think I would destroy my tops. I tried to make it twice, but I thought my machine wasn't helping with this step and I gave up. I will show what I did to fix this problem. My solution was adding fake buttons. It still looks like it should, but it doesn't have the function of opening and closing the top. I thought it wouldn't be a problem because the top was made for wearing with the buttons closed anyway. I just placed all the layers of the fabric together and added the buttons on top. If you ever try to do it, make sure you can wear the top without having to open the buttons. In the end, I read all the notes I wrote during this project and sent the feedback to the designer. This was a fun project and I love the result. To be honest, this is my favorite top at the moment and I have been wearing it again and again. I will leave all the links in the description down below in case you want to try to make the Vera cardigan pattern. I hope you liked this video and let me know what you think about this project. If you would like me to test any other sewing pattern, leave a comment. If you want to support my work, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time!